You know those races where everything goes sideways right from the start? Well, the 1979 Argentine Grand Prix was the epitome of first day back at work chaos. Picture this. It's January 21st, 1979, and Formula One is kicking off its season under the scorching Buenos Aires sun at the Autódromo Juan y Oscar Galvez. Everyone's fresh faced, optimistic, and ready to start the year with a bang. Well, they got the bang part right, just not quite how they planned. Right off the bat, as the lights went out, we had an 8-car pileup at the first corner. I mean, talk about getting a bit too excited for the first race of the season. It was like watching a game of bumper cars, except these were actually million-dollar F1 machines. Championship contenders were scattered across the track like confetti at a party gone wild. John Watson, who'd been looking mighty quick all weekend, found himself smack dab in the middle of the chaos. One minute he's eyeing a potential podium, the next he's wondering if someone got the number plate of whatever just hit him. The stewards took one look at that mess and went, "Yeah, let's try that one again, shall we?" So, complete restart, clean slate. But here's the thing about F1 back then. They just shrugged it off and got back to business. Meanwhile, teams were scrambling. Watson and his McLaren crew were racing against the clock to piece the car back together. Mechanics were probably moving so fast they could have qualified for the race themselves. Now, in the midst of all this mayhem, Jacques Laffite and his Ligier team were about to show everyone they weren't just there to make up the numbers. Let's set the scene a bit more. The late 70s were a revolutionary time in F1. Ground effect aerodynamics were the hot new thing, making these cars stick to the track like they were on rails. Teams were frantically trying to figure out how to make the most of this tech, and everyone was wondering who'd crack the code first. Ligier was one of those teams that had always been around, but never quite in the spotlight. Kind of like that friend who's always at the party, but never the one making the big speeches, you know? But something was different this time. Their new JS11 car was turning heads in practice, not just because it was painted in that striking French blue, but because it was fast. The word in the paddock was that they might have actually nailed this ground effect thing better than anyone else. Even the big teams were getting a bit nervous, watching Laffite consistently putting in quick times. So, back to the restart. This time, Laffite wasn't messing around. He'd already put his Ligier on pole position, and as the lights went out again, he shot off the line like someone had strapped a rocket to that beautiful blue machine. Patrick Depailler, yes, his own teammate, decided to make things interesting. He managed to sneak past Laffite briefly, probably giving the Ligier team heart palpitations in the process. But Laffite? He just calmly took the lead back, as if he was just letting Depailler borrow it for a minute. From there, Laffite put on what you might call a masterclass in how to make an F1 car look easy to drive. He wasn't just fast, he was making everyone else look like they were driving in a different category altogether. The Ligier team must have been pinching themselves in the garage, wondering if they were actually dreaming about their unfancied team schooling the big boys like this. Meanwhile, our friend John Watson was on a mission. Starting from the back of the grid after the pileup, he somehow managed to weave his way through the field in his patched-up McLaren. It's the kind of comeback that makes you wonder if he had a secret nitro button hidden somewhere in that cockpit. As the race unfolded, Carlos Reutemann, racing in front of his home crowd, was pushing hard in his Lotus. The Argentinian fans were on the edge of their seats hoping for a home victory, but Laffite was untouchable. Not only did he cruise home to take the win, but he also nabbed what we call the triple crown of a race weekend: pole position, fastest lap, and the race victory. Talk about showing up and showing off. Reutemann managed to bring his Lotus home in second place. The fans might not have gotten the win they wanted, but hey, a podium's a podium, right? And John Watson, he finished third. From being in a first corner crash to standing on the podium, that's resilience defined. This race wasn't just a big deal because of the chaos or the surprise victory. It basically set the tone for one of F1's most unpredictable seasons. It showed us that in F1, you can never really predict what's going to happen when those lights go out. Everyone shows up with their shiny new cars, thinking they've got it all figured out, and then boom, 8-car pileup in the first corner. Classic F1, right? But more importantly, it proved that the established order could be shaken up. Here's Ligier, this relatively small French team, showing up and absolutely schooling the big boys. It wasn't just luck either. They'd genuinely built a better car. It was like watching your mate's garage band suddenly headline at Wembley Stadium. And let's not forget the championship implications. Points lost or gained here could mean everything come the end of the year. While Laffite's championship dreams might have faded as the season went on, mechanical gremlins and all, that day in Argentina, he and Ligier wrote their own little piece of racing magic. So there you have it, folks. The 1979 Argentine Grand Prix wasn't just another race in the history books, it was a perfect storm of everything that makes F1 fascinating. You had underdogs throwing the rule book of expectations right out the window, a massive first corner pileup that had mechanics earning their overtime pay, and a comeback drive that would make Hollywood scriptwriters jealous. It just goes to show that in Formula One, you never really know what's going to happen when those lights go out. Sometimes it's the quiet ones in the blue cars that end up making the most noise. And that's exactly why we love this sport, isn't it? Thanks for joining me on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed this story and want more daily slices of F1 history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more.